second episode of the Apex podcast. And today we have a special guest, my beautiful wife and partner, Allie Timm. She specializes in nutrition and loves to talk about it. So we're going to kind of ask questions to her and direct a lot to that and hopefully get some education out of this. So Allie, you just want to introduce yourself and kind of tell everybody, your background a little bit and then why you love nutrition so much.
Yeah, I'm Allie. Dave and I own CrossFit Credence, and I just, since we started this, nutrition's kind of become a huge part of my life. When Dave and I started training, I would just have like a Snickers bar and a Coke Zero for lunch, and then we would try to work out, and of course that didn't go well. And so over the years, I feel like I've tried just about every sort of diet out there that there is, and personal experience is the best teacher. So I've just come to have kind of a wealth of knowledge about every single thing that you could try or you think about trying or that's trending right now. I've tried it all. I know a lot about it, and I am very aware of how it impacts your workout and your strength gains and your fat loss. That's my background. Why I like to talk about it.
Okay, so with nutrition in general, is there like a specific diet that works the best, or?
From what I've seen, some people, and I'm stereotyping a little bit here, but some people really thrive on higher carbs, and some people do better with higher fat with nutrition. And I think in general, women do better on a higher carb diet, and men tend to do better on a higher fat diet. But again, that's going to be like person to person. I'm definitely generalizing there.
And do you think that that's because men tend to be bigger, or they move more, or why?
I really don't know why. Typically when I do any kind of assessment with, and again, I'm stereotyping here, but male or female, men are typically don't have any struggles like eating enough protein, but they're eating high fat protein. So we get that kind of big round belly.
So that's not just from beer?
It might be some from beer. But that's it's just high fat meats. And, men like to they're known for grilling. I feel like I'm full of stereotypes here, but, they grill like it's some sort of rocket science, but it's really not.
So high fat meats and just...
Yeah, and then women typically only eat meat or protein in general for dinner, and then they're eating carbs all day long. But from what I've seen, the fastest way to gain weight is to eat primarily fat and carbs.
With no protein.
With no protein, yeah.
Yeah, I do see that pretty often when doing like client interviews and stuff. When I ask basically anyone how much protein they eat, it's 50 to 60 grams of protein a day, which in my opinion that's not even close to enough, especially if you're going to be a physically active person lifting weights. So what would you say is the best approach if you're just starting out and you're the typical American eating 50 to 60 grams of protein a day? Like, do I increase it to 100? Do I double it, triple it? Like, what do I do to get my numbers up a little bit?
Yeah, I think we can take this in stages, and tracking your macros is not something that we typically have a beginner do unless they have some sort of handle on what they've been eating. Like if this is your first go at I need to do something different, what I'm doing is not working, I'm not going to have you start tracking your macros because a lot of people may not even know what macros are. So the first thing I would have them do is just start with every time you eat some protein.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't have protein in it, then you can't eat it until you find a way to add protein in it, which does become kind of a fun little game. I guess I think it's fun because I like food. But...
Okay. So if we're just adding protein to each meal, then how much protein?
I tell people, just to make it easy, make it about the size of your fist. Usually we're talking about meat, right? So I want meat the size of your fist. And everyone's fist is going to be a different size. If I have a big dude, they got a big fist, right? Mm-hmm. Little female, she's got a little fist. So really just kind of equal out the amount of grams. If you're going to eat probably 5 times a day, that's about equal to the amount of grams that your diet should have. Actually, I think eggs is probably true too. That's about how much eggs I eat every morning. So yeah, that's an easy way to go about it, and it doesn't include a food scale or like any kind of log system for your macros. Just making it easy on beginners.
And then what are your thoughts on like carbohydrates? Like what specifically are we trying to look for?
Yeah, so carbohydrates are energy, right? And the more you move, the more carbs you need. So I like to start with just what type of person are you, right? Dave's the kind of person who doesn't tend to sit still very often. He's always up and moving. And that's just not because he has, specific tasks that he needs to do. He just doesn't like to sit still. He feels better moving. And a lot of other people, myself included, I'm more of like a chill out and relax. Let's enjoy the day, soak up some sun, maybe read a book. And I really do like to kind of chill out and relax. And so just based on these two different type of characteristics in your personality, Dave is going to need more carbs because he moves more, right? Movement is energy, energy is carbs. And I just need less because I don't feel like moving more, unless we're going to take some kind of adventure, so if you're not going to move, if you have a desk job or you're driving a truck or behind a computer or you just don't move a lot, these aren't negative characteristics. But then you just don't need as many carbs. If you want to eat more carbs, you got to move more.
So from like a basic understanding, what would you say for a woman, like how many carbs should I have a day versus
what do you do all day?
Let's say that I have a sedentary job and maybe, I work out 3 to 4 times a week. I get 5,000 steps a day.
So in general, in that situation, I would say you really don't need carbs. On the days that you work out, I would maybe add about 30 grams of carbs before your workout. Okay. And that, again, is going to depend on what you think a workout is. Because if we're talking about a CrossFit workout, your typical CrossFit workout is going to burn maybe 300 calories for a female. If it has a ton of weightlifting in it, you might be able to get close to 500. But 300 is going to be pretty average for a 1-hour CrossFit class. And we like to think it burns tons of calories, but 300 is really not that much. It's like 2 apples, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like a lot of food. Right. So we don't, still only 30 grams of carbs before the workout. And when I say no carbs the rest of the day, I don't think vegetables really count as carbs. So I want to eat meat, vegetables, a little bit of fat. And when I say added carbs, I mean like rice, potatoes, any kind of bread products, pretty much anything in a box, pastas, things like that. We just don't need them.
Yeah.
So we're eating meat, vegetables, a little bit of fat, and then you can have maybe a piece of toast before you work out. And that's literally how much you need. It's like hardly any, right? But a female who's not moving much, that's all she needs.
Yeah. So what if I'm super active?
Yeah, then it's like the complete opposite. Yeah. If we're really active, especially for a man, men just burn more calories in general. He has kind of a lot of wiggle room. Okay. It doesn't have to be a lot of... the more you move, the less careful you have to be, right? Which can really be a trick for females, too. If I watch what Dave eats, and I think, well, we're doing the same kind of workouts, I should have the same sort of food, I'm completely wrong, right? Because he has no restrictions, because he moves so much, and he's working out really hard, he's lifting more weight, he owns more muscle mass. He really doesn't have to be careful with how many carbs he's eating as long as they're clean. And when I say clean, I mean like food the way God intended, like rice, potatoes, sprouted grain bread if we're making bread. It's not like refined flours or anything like that. But if I think that because we're similar, I can eat that way, I will gain weight at record speed and he's going to still be all veiny in his abs, right? It's just not equal at all.
So here's a question. So we have all these diets going on, and what makes any of them work or not work?
Compliance is going to be huge. People say they're on keto all the time. They're not really on keto. You're not in ketosis. You'd have to You'd have to be so intentional to be in ketosis.
Right.
Virtually nobody
no
is.
carbs, right?
People who think they're doing keto are like, it's like pseudo keto. It's not really keto.
Right.
Yeah. And you might lose weight doing that, but eventually it's going to catch up with you because it's high fat, and fat has tons of calories.
Mm-hmm. So are any of those diets good, or like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think something is better than nothing. If you go from not paying attention to your diet to paying attention, you're doing good. Anything you want to try, Whole30, paleo, keto, whatever, something is better than nothing. Yeah.
And what about like whole foods over, I don't know, garbage? Because, you know, there's like that, if it fits your macros.
Right.
Right. So like,
yeah,
I'm staying under my calorie mark. You will lose weight, right?
absolutely.
But what's the importance of, if there is importance, what's the importance of eating healthy foods, i.e. like less processed foods over processed foods?
Right.
What's the point? If I can still lose weight or maintain weight, is there a big difference?
Yeah. There's a really big difference in like a lean body versus a healthy body. I mean, if you think about like, you can get heart disease and be a thin person and die at 38, right? That person might have focused on, if it fits your macros, and eating to look a certain way without health in mind at all. And the opposite is true. You can eat all the right foods and just be eating like too much of them, so not really counting your macros, but eating for health purposes. And your body can actually be pretty healthy, even though you're significantly overweight.
But there's still going to be other health issues if you're overweight.
Right, yeah, that's true. But getting enough like vitamins and minerals and nutrition is just going to prevent the majority of diseases. And I don't mean like obese. I mean, some people carry an extra 10 to 15 pounds and they're pretty healthy,
Right.
actually, because they're aware of what they're putting into their body, right? They're just overeating those things.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered that question.
So if it fits your macros isn't necessarily a good way to go about it.
Right.
Even though you're going to lose weight.
Right. If you're 20 years old, maybe you don't care, but that's going to catch up.
Right.
Yeah.
So we want to stick with what? Whole foods and...
Yeah. I mean, optimally, we'd want to hit macros and whole foods at the same time, not one or the other.
Now, let's say you're an athlete. I think that would come into more of a play, right? Because putting the right nutrients in your body is going to help you perform much better. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean we're CrossFitters, so that's going to be like very, very obvious if you are fitting your macros with McDonald's, or if you're, because you can do that, right? You can hit all of your macros just eating McDonald's, but it's going to show up in your workout. You will be last. Your stomach will hurt.
Yeah, Taco Bell isn't the best thing.
Yeah, you'd be in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And, for sure, that's just not going to be the healthy way to go about it. And I think there's other things that affect that too, like your sex drive wouldn't be what it should be. Your sleep would tank. I mean, all the other aspects, your skin is not going to look nice. All the other health markers, I mean, it's going to show up if you're not getting those vitamins and minerals in your body.
What about meat? Let's talk about the different types of meat. So if I'm going to go to Walmart and buy steak, is there a difference between just like a normal steak, or like why would you buy grass-fed?
It's a good question.
Because it's like double the price.
It is. Yeah, I think you either pay the farmer or you pay the doctor. So grass-fed meat, oh man, it's so much better for you. It's like one of the best things you could eat. Grass-fed beef. It's very, very nutrient dense. If you are eating commercially raised beef from like one of the big producers, right? The meat is hung for right around 3 weeks, so 21-ish days, give or take a little. And then they're hung so close together that there's even like feces and stuff on the hooves that are getting on the meat, right? And they can't sell that like that because that's how you get E. coli.
Yeah.
Right? So they have to bleach the meat, and that's going to denature the fatty acids in the meat. And you're taking away everything in the meat that was good for you.
So this thing that was meant to be super good for us, super healthy, now becomes
it's like one of the worst things you can
terrible
eat.
for you. So I mean, we're seeing an increase of people getting sick, and obesity is obviously on the rise. Do you think that there's any correlation to like how we're making food or how we're like processing food in that obesity and the sickness epidemic that's going on?
Yeah, one of the highest ways you can ingest heavy metals, which is going to like cause all sorts of diseases and even very uncomfortable symptoms, is just by eating meat that was commercially raised. So irresponsibly raised meat that was raised for profit and not for health. And I think in general, like when you are experiencing these symptoms of having heavy metals in your body, it's starting to screw with your hormones. You just feel like crap.
And does fish go the same way? Because there's farm-raised fish, and then there's
that's a whole
wild-caught fish.
A whole nother set of problems. So farm-raised fish is typically fed fish, right? They're like cannibal for fish. Is there a word for that? Fish cannibals?
Sure, fish cannibals.
Yeah. What that does is it increases the omega-6s that are in the fish. And omega-6 isn't bad for you, right? But we want to have a balance of omega-6 and omega-3s. So if your omega-6 is way up here, which typically is, because any hydrogenated oils are going to increase that, peanut butter and peanut oil, which, I mean, who doesn't want like a gigantic scoop of peanut butter? Anyway, it makes these omega-6s in your body like way too high, and nobody eats fish every day or takes fish oil, so your omega-3s are super low. These are supposed to be in balance, right? And this imbalance specifically makes you gain weight around the midsection, which is like exactly what nobody wants, right? So we need to decrease the omega-6s, increase the omega-3s. You can do that by just taking fish oil, a good high-quality fish oil, at least 2,000 milligrams a day, and then bringing down any of these like hydrogenated oils, which is pretty much anything in a box. We're talking soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, like... I mean, they're everywhere to try to get rid of that. And if you're eating fish and thinking you're increasing the omega-3s, but it's farm-raised fish, that's also increasing your omega-6s. It's so easy to get these two out of balance. You really have to pay attention to the oils that you're eating and the quality of fish you're eating. That's probably way more than you asked for.
No, that's good. Okay, well, what about fasting?
That's all Tony. I know a little bit about fasting, but I feel like you know a little more. What do you think?
Yeah, so for fasting, it's something I've experimented with casually and going all in between 2017 until now. And with fasting, I've lost 60 pounds 3 times in my life. And I've learned a lot, and I've made some mistakes along the way, but fasting is absolutely a powerful tool. So the simplicity of it is you don't eat anything for a certain window of time, and then you eat all your calories in the remainder. And really that time frame can be fluctuating. You can fast for 16, you eat for 8, or you fast for 20, you eat for 4. Or if you're really aggressive about depending on what your goals are, you could eat 1 meal a day or beyond. So that's basically a brief breakdown of what fasting entails. It's very simple. It's in the name. You don't eat during that window of time.
So from what I understand about fasting, you do adapt to it, right?
Yes.
And once you've adapted to that, how do you feel like, because you've done really long fasts, I think the hold up for people is that they get so hungry, then the first meal they're like going on some kind of binge. So how did you manage to lose 60 pounds and like keep that urge to binge under control when your fast is over?
So with that, so to answer the binge question, imagine when you're a teenager, you're trying to break rules, right? Like the first time like you have that freedom, you're gonna want to abuse it. So for me, when I experience the power of fasting, I also get drawn to that power. Like, oh, I can eat whatever I want, and I did, and I paid the price for it. I gained the weight back. But over time, you learn to take control of it. Like with with power comes responsibility. And so the answer to overcoming that is not to get rid of fasting, but rather to attack that time period where you are binging on the food. Like, how do you control that? And the nice thing about fasting is that it's very simple, right? So rather than trying to control my binge eating over the course of 6 meals in a 24-hour period or however many, I can focus on 1 or 2. And especially in the past 2 years, what I've done is combining fasting with tracking macros, and that really helped me to mitigate the binging problem, because now it's not only like I can eat whatever I want, but rather, okay, I have 2,500 calories that I can spend during that 8-hour eating window or 4-hour eating window. And because I have a shorter period of time, I can eat more, so I can still experience that benefit of enjoying what I get to eat, but not binging so much.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So for most people, the point of fasting is probably going to be to get yourself at a calorie deficit, right? Because we're going to skip some meals. But if you do the macro-based counting, then that kind of defeats the purpose of that.
Right.
Other than you get bigger meals.
Well,
Are there other benefits to fasting other than having bigger meals, I guess?
So when it comes to like biological benefits, there's a lot. Like, there's different biochemical pathways in terms of how your insulin reacts and how it stays suppressed during periods of fasting, and how your body uses fat as energy during the times that you're not eating. And the science is pretty extensive. I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to try and make shit up on the spot. But there are a lot of books that I've read, and it's actually good to just review periodically. But there's tons of research out there that demonstrate the benefit of fasting. And what's cool about it is, evolutionarily, we're not eating 4 meals a day every day. It's basically if you happen to hunt a deer, you're gonna eat, and then you're gonna be on that hunt for the next however much long, and you're not guaranteed to be able to eat 3 times a day. We are designed for fasting. And something I've read is the concept of breakfast, or eating multiple meals a day. That's essentially designed by the food industry, because
They want to make money.
exactly, like if I tell you to fast, there's no money involved, because you're not spending money, you're not really putting in time.
I have heard one of the benefits of fasting is that you typically skip breakfast, and a lot of people are going out to eat for that meal, and I haven't done this, but I've read.
Well, let's be honest, breakfast is generally the most unhealthy meal for most people,
And probably
right?
the most commonly bought, because if you're going to buy coffee, you're going to buy food.
And you're not going to just buy black coffee, most people anyways, and they're also going to get a friggin' donut, right?
Sometimes that is breakfast.
Or a pastry. So, like, we're eating pastries and a sugary coffee drink for breakfast. In my opinion, that's the worst way to start your day.
I actually think it's the fastest way to gain fat, too. I remember I brought that up a little earlier, but if you eat carbs and fat, like primarily that's your diet, it's the fastest way to gain weight. But I think it's especially true if that's your breakfast. So if you look at like normal breakfast habits, yeah, we're talking about like coffees that are filled with sugar and cream, donuts that are carbs and fat, right? Because they've been fried.
Well, coffee in itself isn't bad, but when we add all the other crap, when we add all the other crap to it, is where we have the issue.
Right. So, like, typically when I coach people on diets, if they tell me like, "What are you eating right now?" Cereal, and I'm talking like Captain Crunch and milk, like whole milk. That's again fat and carbs, right? A lot of people have like yogurt, like a normal yogurt, and they put some granola and some fruit in there, and then they have their coffee with cream on the side. So again, fat, carbs. There's no protein in this.
Same thing with oatmeal, right? So like oatmeal can be 1,000 calories
for sure,
easily.
And how do you make it taste better? You throw some peanut butter in it. Make it with milk.
Yeah.
Fat, carbs. These are the fastest ways to gain weight. And they're the most normal thing that people eat for breakfast.
Right, and the thing with eating multiple meals is now if you're trying to maintain a deficit, you have a lot of rules to follow. Like you have to do a bunch of things right during breakfast, you have to do a bunch of things right during lunch, and then dinner, as well as snacking in between. But with 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day, your rules are simply don't eat anything for 16 hours, and then just focus on eating well during that meal number 1 and meal number 2, and then you're set. It's from a compliance standpoint, it's hard to start. So you're mentioning like clients are hesitant, right? That first week is gonna suck. But the cool thing is, typically during the first week is when your motivation is the greatest. So you're more willing to go out of your way to make something work. And with fasting, because it becomes easier, when that motivation dies down, it's easier to stay disciplined. It's already been a habit,
yeah.
Versus like if I'm cutting out carbs, if I'm told to cut out carbs or certain food groups, yeah, I'll do it for the first week because I'm like I have a goal. I'm high on adrenaline. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make it happen. But 2 weeks in, 4 weeks in, it's just gonna suck. And having all of those rules to follow, it just becomes nearly impossible to stay compliant.
Right, and I think fasting has a lot of like immediate pros to it, right? So if you fast and do a workout in the morning, you typically feel like pretty light and fast.
Oh yeah.
You may not feel quite as strong under a barbell, but if you're gonna do any like burpees or running or anything like that, you feel pretty dang good. And then if you have to work first thing in the morning, let's say you're not gonna work out, you're gonna go to work, you typically have a sharper focus, right? And I think after about a week, the pain of being hungry just kind of goes away.
Right.
Like, your body adapts.
Yeah, like the last time I ate was yesterday was it even yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday, like around lunchtime, and
it's over 24 hours probably.
Yeah, and it's not something I really think about. Like I routinely, like we do 2-hour long workouts, and I'm almost always 16 hours deep into a fast by that point. So yeah, it's something you absolutely get used to, and at first, yeah, maybe you'll feel sluggish, maybe you'll suck at your whatever movements you're doing, but that's because you're still in that adaptation process.
I think for performance purposes, if you're going to do a 2-hour long workout, you shouldn't be fasted, because you will see
like muscle cannibalizing.
Not necessarily muscle cannibalizing, because it's going to take a lot to do that, but like if the purpose is to get more fit, then you would want the glycogen and everything to be filled up so that you could utilize that during the workout, because your workout isn't going to burn like as many calories as, let's say, your full day would, right? Because my normal daily activities are going to burn more calories than I do during that workout. So just me walking around, me doing whatever, walking the dog, stuff like that, playing with the kids, going places, my overall calorie burn is going to override that 2-hour workout or that 1-hour workout, whatever. Most people, let's say 1 hour, right? So if I want to have the best workout, especially if it's weightlifting, I would say you should eat prior some carbohydrates, especially weightlifting. Now, if you're just going to go out for a run, I mean, unless you're sprinting hard, but if you're just going to do like most people don't do that, like you probably don't need the carbohydrates. And your body does store a lot of glycogen anyways, so in retrospect, like you're just going to have to weigh your pros and cons. If I know I'm going to do a lot of weightlifting, I will probably eat before.
Yeah, I feel way stronger with some carbs if I'm going to lift. That's probably my favorite type of workout. Let's carb load and then lift. I feel like super freaking strong.
Yeah.
So the caveat to that though is, because you're at pretty close to your ideal body composition, so you don't have much fat to burn. But for people who are in the process of losing weight, they have access excess fat in the orders of hundreds of thousands of calories. So in the absence of glycogen or carbohydrates, the body uses the fat for energy. So
but your body's going to use that for energy later on. So what I'm trying to say is, even if you're trying to lose weight or trying to be at a calorie deficit to like get to the body composition that you want, if you eat before you exercise and have a better workout and you're burning more calories during that workout, then you're going to end up burning more calories throughout the day, rather than having a crappy workout because you're 16 hours into a fast, and you basically just have low energy. And I mean, that's just opinion based, but I think in general we could say that's true. I know I've messed with fasting a lot, and I know for a fact that even if I'm like, let's say I'm a little bit heavier and I'm like 16% body fat, I can tell that I haven't eaten in a long time, right? Whereas even if I'm low body fat, like currently like 10, 11, if I don't eat, like, and I lift weights, I feel like ass. But it's the same if I'm a little bit heavier, right? I can still feel like crap. So, but on the side note, like if I work out early in the morning, I do not like to eat before I work out early in the morning. I think it feels bad. But if I have a bigger meal at night, then my glycogen source should be pretty high, right? Because I'm still going to burn calories while I'm sleeping. But if I fill those up before I go to bed and then go work out, I actually think I could have a pretty good workout. I'm not going to be able to lift as much in the morning, just that's general for most people, as I could at like, noon or 2 or 3 in the afternoon, depending on the person.
Yeah, and a lot of people say like, I couldn't do that because if I don't eat before I work out, even something little, then I just feel really dizzy. What do you think about that?
Then they probably didn't eat right the day before, or they're massively dehydrated.
That's what I think too, yeah. Yeah, I think usually if you're feeling dizzy in the morning and you try to get a workout in, having not eaten, it's probably not that you needed carbs. You needed some sort of minerals, which we can typically get by, making yourself the healthy margarita in the morning. Some people do like lemon juice and then sea salt in their water.
So let's talk about that. What about adding sodium into your water?
Absolutely. There's a big difference in what kind of sodium we're having, though, because we have iodized, like normal table salt, right? And then we have sea salt, whether it's pink Himalayan sea salt or just plain sea salt. And these two things have like a really big different effects on your body. Your iodized table salt actually is like what makes your face look bloated. It makes your skin like kind of tight, makes your fingers
And that's what
fat.
most restaurants use in food.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's like...
So if you're not making your own food...
A tenth of the price,
and you're
probably.
eating out, you're probably going to look bloated.
Right. And that's the first thing to go, is that bloat when you start eating right and drinking water.
Right, when you start cooking food.
Right. But conversely, like sea salt, when we have sea salt, it like hydrates you. Your body's taking in those minerals, and that's what's going to make you not feel dizzy in the morning if you're going to that workout fasted. And some people use like Gatorade. I mean, it's the same concept. Those electrolytes are filling up your body, and that's going to take away that dizziness. Even if you're drinking a Gatorade that has no calories in it, you actually didn't consume any carbs, so it can't be that, but you feel better.
Right.
It's the electrolytes.
Yeah. So if we kind of want to wrap up this, what are the main takeaways for nutrition and diet? Like, if somebody if they're just getting started on their workout journey, what would be the most important thing to do?
The most important? Well, I mean, do something, right? Something is better than nothing. Any diet.
We're talking about nutrition, right?
Right. I think the biggest bang for your buck is always going to be protein.
Okay.
Getting lean protein in. Sometimes I have people try just for one day, see if you can eat only one ingredient foods. So things like broccoli, eggs, chicken, shrimp, things that have one ingredient. Coffee is fine. But as soon as you have to start reading the ingredients, it's a no. Can you do it?
I don't know. So I think the protein thing is huge, and I've noticed a lot of people. Protein is also one of the most satiating of the macronutrients, so it's going to keep you full the longest.
Yeah.
So even, I know we talk about fat being satiating too, but protein has the same effect, right? So if I were to eat, a bunch of chicken, do I really want to eat a bunch of other crap too? Because I'm going to be too full from the chicken.
You're right about that, if you eat the protein first. You know what I was noticing? I was comparing the difference between the different apps that are out there. So things like the RP diet and like what MyFitnessPal sets you up with, and then Eat to Perform. And RP typically sets you up with actually really low fat, like lower than any other thing out there.
But it's high protein, right?
It is very high protein. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of comparing these, and I was thinking, like, why do people typically start their day with such high fat foods? And you know why they do it is
commercialized.
Well, you don't have to eat again for like a really long time. So if I have coffee and I fill it up with like a good chunk of cream, I don't have to eat again until 3 or 4 o'clock.
Yeah, but that's just cream. But people aren't going to just do cream. They're going to do sugar too, right?
Right,
so
but even if I do that and I don't eat again until like 3 o'clock or whatever, what are the chances of that I'm even going to hit 100 grams of protein that day?
Slim to none.
Pretty much a zero.
Right.
Right? Because I loaded my day with fat. Now my calories are down, but I am so low on protein. Even if I lost weight, it would just be skinny fat. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right. And we want to have that muscle mass because the more muscle mass you have on you, the more calories you burn at rest.
Yeah. Your body is not going to look the way you want it to look if you are not going to eat protein.
Right.
It doesn't matter who you are. Nobody wants to look like that.
So major takeaway, drink more water.
Eat protein.
Eat more protein. Mm-hmm. Stick with
whole foods.
Yeah.
Whole foods. Try to stay away from processed crap. I think education's important, so educating yourself on nutrition.
Yeah, knowledge is power. That's
right?
huge right there.
So the more you know, the better off you are, especially if you're trying to help your family and stuff with like how to be more healthy. So
and I think it gives you more discernment. The more you know, you can figure out what is true and what isn't true when you listen to things like this or when you read different articles about food.
Right. Because some of the stuff that we're saying here, people might not agree with, and that's fine. But what we're trying to get across is educate yourself, right? And not all fad diets work the same. Some of them are going to work better for others. But with that being said, you should eat healthy and define healthy. Exercise, drink water, and kind of just hopefully have a group that's in the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's so much easier if someone does it with you.
Where does alcohol fit?
Yeah, it doesn't.
So alcohol is its own macronutrient.
It is.
It has no place in your diet.
If you are gonna lose, if you're on a go to lose weight or increase performance, you just shouldn't. Period. Now, if you want to make this fit into your lifestyle and you're like, well, I'm gonna drink, tell me how to drink, I would stick with probably only like
Hard
light.
liquor.
Yeah. Honestly,
Yeah.
if you want to keep the calories down, and I would make them clear, so you're not having whiskey, you're doing what,
Straight up tequila.
vodka, a high quality tequila, because Jose Cuervo's brown.
Or just cut it out completely.
Or cut it out. That's obviously the best choice. But some people are just, I'm gonna drink. How do I do it low calorie?
And if you're gonna drink, limit it to
1 or 2 per week.
Right, not per
day. And your weekend is not Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then you're drinking 3 out of 4 days.
Yeah.
But I would stick with diet soda and clear liquors, hard liquors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now another thing too is like, doesn't matter what you do, give it a fair shot. And like I've talked to so many clients that's like, I tried keto, I tried fasting, I tried macros, none of it works. And it's like, well,
Did you try it for a week and then quit?
Right.
Exactly. It's like, I tried for a week, I didn't get my 6-pack abs, so fasting doesn't work, or macros. So so really you gotta give it a shot, give it time for the effects to take place, and maybe it won't work the first time, and basically maybe the conclusion is not this isn't working, but rather what aspects of it are you not optimizing. So then you go in.
I actually do think all of them work, right? But there's, from what I've seen, about a 7-day trial period for you to figure out how to do it.
Right.
So I won't even start really saying it started until you've been at it.
And
for
then
7
even when
days.
people find that, they end up like paleo, right? And I
Paleo
do
cookies.
this too, right? Okay, so like, how do we cheat without cheating, right?
Then
So-
why do it?
Well, I mean, paleo cookies, and we just had this conversation yesterday about cookies, right?
Right. They're delicious.
I think paleo cookies are delicious, but how many calories does a paleo cookie have? Because it's made with all fat.
Right. And because they're 9 calories per 1 gram of fat, a paleo cookie actually has more
Yeah.
calories than a normal cookie, almost doubled.
So yes, you can gain weight on paleo.
But your health would be better than if you were to just sit down and eat cookies, right? Because at least you're eating things with nutrition.
Unless
You're
you're,
just going to
Unless
be
you're still
overweight.
eating
unless you're 400 pounds overweight,
Right.
then you have a decline.
Do you know any 400-pound people who are paleo?
No.
No.
So-
That'd be tricky.
All right.
I'm sure it could be done.
Cool. All right. Well, we're taking away our takeaways here. Eat more protein. Drink more water. Stick with single ingredient foods. And
Be healthy and fit.
Educate yourself.
Yeah.
So
All right.
that's our episode today.